John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down!
Come on.
Ready, down, set, hut, 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 hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
All right, we are back. It is the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast, and it is a joyous one as the Sooners win at 27-13 yesterday in Ames, Iowa. Carey Murdoch here, Eddie Radosevich joining us as well. And Eddie just back, what did you get back, about 3 in the morning last night from Ames?
Yeah, it was about 2:45, so it wasn't too bad.
So, yeah, right. I would have been, if there were a back seat, I would have been sleeping. But no, you and Bob went in style this year. Little supercar almost from Lexus.
Yeah, she gets up. It was a lot of fun driving that thing up to Ames, and I don't know. I think I'm closer than ever in having to go see the fine folks at Eskridge and just getting a Lexus for myself after driving these for the last couple of weeks.
He's coming. We'll make Will deal with you. He'll be
fine.
Your salesman.
That's fine. I crashed his wedding,
yeah.
So that should be okay.
But no, the Lexus RC, I believe it was the model that you guys had, a little 2-door coupe, sport coupe. So it looked pretty mean. I'm glad. Any tickets that I need to know about? That I'm going to get a mail, something in the mail.
Well, I mean, I don't think so, but I was never pulled over. So how about that? I am innocent until proven guilty, right?
I think the last time it was Des Moines that got you because this time I just booked you in Ames. So
yeah, we got to Ames on Friday night, but yeah, I think that was like even because we were like going to the airport or something. I think that last time. So yeah, I was completely innocent, and they Big Brother, they got me.
Sooners win at 27-13, so no traffic tickets that we know of at this point. And look, I think you saw what you wanted to see. You saw maybe more than you wanted to see from the defense, who only gave up about 30 yards rushing in the first half. And you saw an offense that, Jeff Lebby, I thought, had a great plan going in. You saw some pretty weird stuff with Marvin Mims dropping a bunch of passes, but you were down on the field the whole time. It seemed like I was surprised at how good the crowd seemed.
Yeah,
for a team that lost just 4 in a row.
In the what?
For a team that had just lost 4 in a row coming in.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, Iowa State fans are good. It never got just like completely just out of control, but it was a good crowd. And, I think Oklahoma played a part of that in kind of, I guess, taking them out of it, if you will. I don't know how to really explain that, but it was it was a solid performance. I mean, I don't think that anything is necessarily fixed by any means. Like, I don't think that Hunter Deckers is very good. Iowa State offensively is pretty atrocious, but I thought they played well defensively. They tackled well, came up with some turnovers when they needed to, got some big tackles for loss, and I don't know. It's kind of just a building block. I don't think that anything is necessarily completely changed because of the way that they played on Saturday. But for the first time in, maybe this season, it feels like there's at least some positive momentum, moving in the right direction as they head into these Final Four games.
Well, and let's start out early because, offensively, I thought Jeff Lebby had a great plan against that 3-3-5 defense, and he was calling a bunch of plays that worked. You saw receivers that were open. It wasn't what we've seen in years past where, the former coach, I guess we'll just call him now, struggled against Iowa State, struggled to throw the ball, struggled to get receivers open. And his quarterback struggled, and that goes back to Baker Mayfield. So to watch Dillon Gabriel and Jeff Lebby work the very first play of the game, Marvin Mims wide open down the sideline. I don't know how, if anybody would have caught up with him, it hits him right in the gut, and he drops a pass. But then they continue to come back. Eric Gray just had a fantastic day. And I thought Marcus Major looked like a guy, Eddie, that was rusty, that was thinking maybe a little too much, just wasn't letting loose. And that's I think that's just gonna, with him missing so much time, it's just gonna take some time for him to get back in the flow. But Eric Gray went into the injury tent, came back, limped off the field at the end of the game. He was just outstanding on Saturday.
Yeah, another 100-yard day for Eric Gray. It's been kind of a continuation of what he's been able to do all season. And, the disparity between him and Marcus Major running the football right now it's a wide gap. There's just stuff that it feels like it's there that Marcus Major, I don't know if he's not seeing it or if he's just not comfortable enough to kind of trust himself because it's there. Oklahoma, they're playing pretty good up front. They're able to run the football, but yeah, I mean, it was a weird day offensively. It just feels like they are so close to being really, really good, and then they have one thing set them back, whether it be a penalty, even like the first series of the game, the drop by Marvin Mims would have been called back because of a penalty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which was weird. Did they ever announce it in the stadium?
No, and they were very confused in the broadcast booth as well because they had no idea. It was like 1st and 20, and even the scoreboard, the bug was not updating correctly, and all of a sudden it was 1st and 10, and then it was 2nd and 20. Like it was weird, man. It was a bad day from the broadcast team. Yeah,
I heard that the broadcast was not the best. That they struggled pretty greatly. It was weird though because then they go for it on obviously on what was 3rd and 15 or whatever. I was like, is this not the 4th down? That was a weird way to start the game. Marvin Mims had a very forgettable performance in Ames. I have no idea what was wrong with him. 6 targets, 2 receptions, 16 yards. And it was seemingly a day in which he just should have been anywhere out other than on the field. I don't know.
Brayden Willis had some rough moments as well.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's like they move the ball so well at times, and then they get into the red zone where they have to settle for a field goal, or you have to settle for a field goal on the 2-yard line yet again. And then obviously a great fake to kind of bail them out of it. But
yeah, I mean, credit
Brent
Venables, because I wanted to talk about that early here. I mean, that offense was struggling and did struggle at times punching it in. And for Brent to call that fake field goal and open wide up, Zach Schmit, he had the first 13 points of the game for the Sooners, 2 field goals and a fake field goal run. I guess that was a run. Yeah, it was. I think Michael Turk had a pass. Michael Turk was credited with the pass. Yeah.
But, yeah.
So it was a receiving touchdown, essentially.
It was a receiving touchdown, technically.
But, for Brent to go for it there and for him to allow his special teams, his kickoff return to, bring the ball out, he's really going after it on special teams, and that set a pretty good tone.
Yeah. The kick return game didn't seem like it was very good yesterday, but overall, I mean, you can't complain about the special teams aspect of it. They whooped Iowa State's ass in that department, and the fake field goal was good. Zach Schmidt's been awesome. Brent Venables called him an assassin after the game, and Michael Turk, when they needed 2 big punts, Michael Turk gave him a 60-yarder and a 61-yarder. I think I got a great shot of both of them, but more so the first of the 60-yarders. Turk kind of gets banged down. I was surprised that they didn't call a running into the kicker, but he immediately pops up and just takes off straight down the field. It was pretty funny to watch.
Yeah,
those
2 punts, exactly when they need him. Exactly. I mean, there was a point in that game where momentum had turned to Iowa State, and with their home crowd, it could have become an issue for this team that has been fighting adversity, fighting some mental ups and downs. And Turk really stabilized them with those 2 punts. So, I mean, you can't discount what a big part of that game those 2 punts were.
No, he was incredible. And I think the other side of it too is that was a defensive performance yesterday that maybe for the first time, and maybe it was just false hope, or maybe I just kind of talked myself into thinking that Iowa State was absolutely awful offensively, that when OU's defense ran out onto the field, even in a 2013 game, you go, I think that they can get a stop. It feels like they're playing pretty well right now. And real quick it's an uncomfortable position to be in.
Yeah, before we get too far into the defense, because I want to talk a lot about that, but offensively, just going back there, I mentioned it, kind of when we had the pod last week about, mid-season grades or whatever. Like, I thought Jalil Farouk was a guy that it really surprised me, one of the biggest surprise players, and then he has the big play where he comes wide open across the middle, and it's a bust in their secondary, but really, it's like he scores that, and you're like, okay, OU is kind of figuring this out on offense. But he had 4 targets and 4 catches. Like Drake Stoops is the only other person. Well, Eric Gray from a receiver. I think those are the only 2 guys you're like, okay, they had really solid days. And Theo Weiss didn't get a lot of targets. I mean, he got 3, but one of them was that jump ball, toward the end zone. But Farouk is a guy that, they continue to find ways to get him the ball. And really, he opened things up for, that offense against that defense. And I think he's another guy, like, probably, player of the game type candidate on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's maybe that has more to do with just not having a whole lot of options. But he gave them production when he got the football. And I mean, they needed to go score. I kept telling somebody I was standing next to on the sidelines down there shooting video. It's like every time that it was 13-6, like you have to, at some point, you got to extend it. You got to, that is something that Oklahoma hasn't been able to do here. Certainly this year is try to extend and put the foot on a throat. And, obviously Iowa State gets back into the game, but it was just it was a positive. And, if nothing else, you look at what they were able to do offensively, just against a really, really good Iowa State defense. And I think you can live with it. Like nothing at the end of the day is going to be very sexy when you look at the box score. But, particularly like a Dillon Gabriel stat line of 15, 26, 148, 1 touchdown. You can live with that, can't you, against that defense?
Well, and that's the really strange thing is like the first quarter, it all seemed like, that offense was rolling and they just needed to, not make some mistakes or get some penalties and this and that. And at halftime, you look up and what do they have at total? I'm trying to kind of piece it all together here in my head in terms of total yards. But, they end up with fewer offensive yards than Iowa State does, but that's because Iowa State was just desperate. I mean, you're sitting there, and I'm looking at the stat sheet as it goes along the live feed, and the Deckers kid is like throwing 50 passes. I'm like, holy crap! He ended up with 57 passes on that game because they could not run the ball. OU got a steady stream of pressure throughout the day. I mean, he had one run that you're just like, oh, that looked like that was some PTSD from Adrian Martinez.
The one out of the end zone?
Yes, the one out of the end zone. And then they convert the 2 4th downs in a row, and that's back to what we're talking about with Turk and, how big those punts were because they were just going to throw it every down, and they were going to go for it on 4th down every time. It was just complete desperation by Iowa State. I mean, they basically were like, they just laid it all out there. Like, we're going to win or lose, just chunking this thing down the field. And OU kind of, they had to overcome it, and they did.
Yeah. And even with all the good that was in there, it's like you go back to those 2 4th downs when it's 27-13. Or what was it? 27-6, right?
I don't know. I never got there.
It was 20-6. It was 20-6 because that made it 20-13.
Right. It was 13-6, then 20-6, then 20-13, then 27-13.
Right. Yeah. I had to talk myself all the way into that. It's just so frustrating because it's like I just don't feel like there's anybody else in the country that watches a team week after week after week not be able to just get off the field, especially in those particular situations where it's like Now they did, and credit them that, it's, 27-13. They come up with a stop inside the red zone late in the fourth quarter. But, and at the end of the day, I guess, does it really not matter? But I don't know. It probably doesn't. But it's just frustrating to see them just repeatedly each week not be able to get off the field in, those really tight situations. But overall, defensively, when the bar's set as low as it has been with this group, that was a pretty good performance. Hopefully you can build off of it here over the next couple weeks. There was a lot of really good individual performances. DaShaun White was amazing.
Yeah, and we could switch over to the defense and just talk about it. I mean, look, I think you look at that Oklahoma State, Kansas State game yesterday, and what can happen to a team. That was a team that's been playing great all season, and it just kind of reminds you of OU and Texas, how a team can kind of fall apart all of a sudden. And they have a lot of injuries at Oklahoma State. I understand that. But, that losing that Texas game really took a toll, I think, on this team mentally, the way they did it. And just that stretch of TCU and Texas and not having Dillon Gabriel. But, we talked about, this defense and how they kind of hang their heads when bad things happen. And they needed to show a little bit of progress against Kansas and a little bit of progress against Iowa State. I would say, if anything, from what I saw, this defense, even though, yes, it is the worst offense in the Big 12 Conference, they still went out and held them to 13 points, which 3 weeks ago you wouldn't have thought that they could hold anyone to under 40. I mean, it was just that bad defensively. So I would say, from what we saw of them yesterday, they're ahead of schedule from what I expected in terms of just making progress.
No, I think so. And, it's also one of those things. It's like, if you would have told me that they were going to hold as bad as Iowa State is offensively, and especially in an inability to run the football, if you would have told me that they were going to hold them to under 30 yards of rushing in the first half, I would have said there's no way. So, I mean, they have made – did they play better than they did a week ago? The answer is yes. And if they can just continue to make those steps, as bad as this thing has been, I think that you got to live with that. And, I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about before going into the game, that they have a chance to win their next 4 games. Now, will they? I have no idea. I didn't expect Baylor to go to Lubbock and win last night, but we'll see. I mean, I guess in a way, maybe Oklahoma State's looking a little bit more winnable than maybe you thought it was a couple weeks ago. And then Tech and West Virginia, 2 teams that Oklahoma's had a bunch of success against, even though they'll still be tough games on the road. So, I thought it was encouraging. If nothing else, it was encouraging to see a defense and just go out and tackle well. They didn't have bust. They were doing things that you just expected to happen, but they didn't happen for a month. So you started wondering where that went.
Yeah, and was this team, cratered mentally? Were they uncoachable? All those kinds of things, and having a bye week, it is interesting the rest of the way. How Brent handles this team in practice and getting guys ready and making sure his team is fresh. It's obvious whatever plan they came up with is working a little bit. And they did look like they were ready to play a full 60 minutes. Basketball just started, so I'm getting really confused. A full 60 minutes on both sides of the ball. And, it's like this offensive line, we've been kind of hinting about how it's on the verge of looking dominant at times. I mean, other than some penalties, I mean, they looked really good. DaShaun White, like you mentioned, just fantastic. I mean, he is really finding a home at that cheetah position and starting to be a guy that's flying all over the field. Especially Eddie, late in games is when he's making his biggest impacts.
Yeah, he's been amazing. And, he had the pick there in the second half against Kansas. Came up with, obviously a career-high 14 tackles on Saturday up in Ames. And maybe it's just becoming a little bit more comfortable. Maybe it's just a little bit more of guys around him actually playing better as well, which makes the entire unit better. Talking to him after the game, he obviously was extremely pleased with how he played, but I think he was just pleased that the entire defense could finally put together a positive performance in a year that hasn't been hasn't been filled with those moments. So
it was kind of funny in the post game. You asked him about just the success and how much this team needed it, and it was like he started answering your question. He was like, "Yeah, we really needed it," and he was like, "God, I don't know really how to talk positively about this team."
Yeah.
Like it was like he was lost for words. He literally was lost for words. Like, wow, I'm really having to discuss like feeling good about this defense, and I don't know that I have the vocabulary to talk about that right now.
Well, and particularly two guys, on the defensive side of the ball that have been, obviously one is a little bit of a lightning rod in Justin Broyles, and he comes up with the big interception there in the fourth quarter, and then Danny Stutzman, who's been up and down all year. I don't think that anybody's necessarily given up on Danny, but to say that he's had a good season would probably be a little bit of a fable. So
a fib, a lie.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Love Stutzman, but need him to play better. And,
the great thing about
the
great thing about Stutzman play was basically he was out of position on the touchdown over the middle on the touchdown before, and then he didn't let that receiver cross him. He cut the route and got the football, and people are like, "Oh, that was a terrible throw." No, the way he played it made it look like a terrible throw because he read what was going on, because he just screwed up on the same type of play earlier, and he cut off the route and was able to get to the ball before it reached the tight end. And I really wish he would have scored a touchdown. I mean, that was the only negative about that. It's like, all you have to do, Danny, just run over the quarterback. Just run him over. Like, it wouldn't have been that hard.
It was a big play, and obviously a much needed moment for I guess moments even plural for an Oklahoma defense there in the second half that they played well enough to give themselves the chance to win the game, and obviously we're able to get out of there with a win. Something that I think I saw yesterday that was the worst. Let me pull this back up and make sure I get this right. But
it's their worst loss of the season.
Well, worst loss at home under Matt Campbell since I want to say maybe his first or second year there.
I thought Oklahoma State beat them by double digits a couple years ago.
Okay, maybe that's what it was then.
When Brennan Presley jumped up and snatched it out of the air, and then I think they intercepted it. Maybe that wasn't a double-digit game.
Okay, it was Matt Campbell's largest loss since the 7-6 Cyclones lost to 12-2 Notre Dame in their 2019 bowl game. Matt Campbell's second largest loss at home since being hired by Iowa State in 2015. Only bigger loss was to West Virginia in 2016.
Wow. That just shows you how consistent they've been. I mean, now they've lost 5 in a row, and before OU, so you had 13 on to 14, which, that's not a whole lot of points to lose 5 straight games.
No, it's a competitive program that does not necessarily get blown out. Now, the bad news for them is they don't win close games either. I was listening to Travis Hines on the Oklahoma Breakdown with an incredible stat going into last week's game. Iowa State was 1-9 in their last 10 one-possession games.
They had a graphic during the game. Iowa State has lost in one-possession games. Over however many years, they were 32nd in the country in I don't know in the country, but 32nd, rated 32nd for most losses in a one-possession game. Oklahoma was 20. Wow, I don't know what that was. No, but Oklahoma in one-score games, they were 32nd for wins. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. They have had a rough go of it up there, and I didn't necessarily just stand around talking to Iowa State fans, but just the moans and groans throughout the stadium. I think they're a little impatient, just as far as what that product is right now. I don't think that nobody's necessarily running Matt Campbell out of Ames, but they gotta find a way to start winning football games, and obviously he's going to get a little bit of a year of a rebuild after all the guys that they lost. It's kind of funny.
Their stud safety transferred. He went to the portal.
Yeah. And then,
I don't even know where he ended up, but I mean, like they basically have very average linebackers now that they lost Mike Rose. I mean, they're okay, but they're not, studs like what they've had. And then their secondary just isn't as good. And they have one safety that's the number one guy. What's his name? Anderson. I mean, he's excellent.
Isheem Young, is that who you're thinking of?
Yes. Yeah.
He ended up at Ole Miss.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's kind of a bad product right now. I mean, obviously they're pretty good defensively. Offensively, watching that thing, it is it's
their
pretty
offensive
rough.
Line's not very good. I mean, and that's a kind of a statement. You're always kind of like, wow, Iowa State's offensive line is surprisingly good.
Well, and that's the other thing is like, I mean, I thought Oklahoma's defensive line, they played pretty darn well yesterday.
They did.
I mean, even Jordan Kelly was making plays, which it was almost kind of oh yeah, where's he been moment.
Hey, by the way, the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com is Eskridge Lexus. Very proud to be associated with them. You guys know I've been driving Lexuses for a long time. Just unbelievable reliability from all Lexuses, and that's one of the big reasons that I am a proud Lexus owner. Look, new car inventories, they're still pretty limited, but they are improving, and Ed says they've got more new vehicles arriving every week. So since their new inventories have been limited, they've been stocking up on Lexus L-certified pre-owned vehicles. And trust me, those engines and those things are bulletproof almost. So you have no worries. You'll get an unlimited mile full factory warranty, up to 6 years of coverage. L-certified cars also come with 4 free services, free car washes, and use of brand new Lexus loaner vehicles while your car is in our service department. So like if you're me and you're in Norman and you take your car up for service, they just give you a car to drive until yours is ready. And that's really helpful being from Norman. So visit EskridgeLexus.com for the most up-to-date inventories or to book your next service appointment. They get you in, they get you out. And just tell them what you want, and they'll keep an eye out for it, hold you one back as soon as it comes in. That's what I did for my latest IS350, and you can do it too. EskridgeLexus.com, official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com. Yeah, Jordan Kelly was making plays. I mean, Jalen Redmond had that one play where he just ripped the guy down by his shoulder pads, and the fans were grumbling because they thought it had to be a face mask. But
yeah,
it was legitimately just ripped him down by grabbing his shoulder pad. And they got pressure, and Brent sent pressure from a lot of different places. So, I thought overall the pressure was not an issue. They were really good.
No, they were. And, Jonah Laulu had a pretty good day. I know that Josh gave him a high grade on the report card on the Crimson Corner. So it was overall, it was a very positive day. And, we'll see how they can continue to build off of this. Obviously, with Blake Shaping coming in, it's going to be another test through the air next week. And we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I still don't really know what to make of this entire thing. And they're now, 8 weeks into it? It kind of doesn't even make any sense.
Well, I think, the defense, we'll find out, but they seem to be figuring it out, at least in the run game specifically. And I thought, linebacker play was a lot better in stopping the run. You see more guys. I mean, Jaden Davis was fantastic. I mean, I think he was third in the team on tackles. But, just as a run, not stopping, but a corner that can play the run, he's becoming really impressive there. And, I'm trying to figure out, I haven't seen, I think Bob put it up this morning. I need to go look at it. The PFF totals. I'm going to grab that right now. But just seeing how much Billy Bowman played, because I know he played. I just noticed Key Lawrence a lot more than I did Billy Bowman.
Yeah, he did not play as much as I thought he would. I don't have the numbers in front of me as far as how many snaps he got, but he did not get in until I want to say it was the second quarter, second series, or I think it was second series. It was right after Iowa State's first field goal is when he came out there, I want to say. But I thought he was, I would have to go back and watch the game to say, how he played. He was credited with 2 tackles, 2 assisted tackles. So it was, if nothing else, it's a positive to get him back onto the field. He's obviously, Brent made a comment about the big knee brace. He doesn't like the defensive backs back there with knee braces on. It was just good to get him back out onto the field. Hopefully you can get a, 100% healthy Billy Bowman, obviously for this week, and then Bedlam and your final 2 road trips to Lubbock and Morgantown.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that it's just like with Marcus Major. I mean, these guys, yes, you get them back, and yes, they get medically cleared. But if they've missed multiple games, they rarely just come out and play like the guy that you saw before he got hurt. I mean, it takes these guys some time. And I mean, it's been like with R. Mason Thomas. They've brought him to games. They've had him warm up, but then he's been in street clothes. And that was several weeks. Like, it's just they want to get these guys acclimated. They want to get them, part of the routine so that when they get back out there, it could, kind of come back quickly. But like I said, with Marcus Major, you could tell he wasn't sharp. He didn't look like the guy that we thought he was before he got hurt. He was just tentative. And I think Billy Bowman's going to have to kind of go through the same thing, get back. I'm sure he's been limited in practice, and they've taken it easy on him and not going full go, like other people are. So it'll probably just take 2 or 3 weeks for us to really see that Billy Bowman that we were seeing before that TCU injury.
Sure. And, the Marcus Major thing was interesting yesterday just for the fact that nobody knew that Javonte Barnes wasn't going to travel until they're out there during pregame. It's like, okay, I haven't seen number 2. Where's he at? And after the game, Brent Venables says that he had a hamstring issue, I think is how he termed it, that kept him out of the plans to travel. And then Tyler Guyton had his uncle's funeral, so that's why he was not at the game on Saturday. So, they're damn lucky that Eric Gray, I think, is gonna be okay. He just said after the game, it was really weird. He said that it was an issue of just getting stretched out. So he was not even like downplaying it. He was just saying that he wasn't injured, which I don't know why you went to the tent for, basically 30 minutes, but that was weird. He comes out after getting out of the tent, and OU had just gotten the ball back, and he ran all the way down the sidelines and caught them because they were in a TV break, and then that's how he got back out on the field. So I don't know, man. It was when you have a healthy Eric Gray, he's really, really good. But that run game definitely hurt when he was not on the field.
Well, and for people wondering, saw him limp off the field at the end of the game. He did do post-game interviews, and if a guy's really hurt, he doesn't come out for post-game interviews. They just, start getting his treatment, get him in the bus or whatever. But he looked fine. I mean, from what I could tell, just from your camera, seemed like he was, good to go moving forward.
Yeah, no, he was, and maybe you take a little bit of workload off of him this week early, just to make sure that he is ready for Saturday. But he came and talked to the media after the game. He was limping pretty good, but he downplayed everything. Gave no indication that this would be a long-term deal or anything like that.
It was announced at next week's game, 2:00 start. It will be on ESPN. If you're a scooper, you should not be a poor that complains about that. You should just have ESPN Plus already. I mean, come on. I mean, do you not have ESPN Plus, Eddie?
Do I not?
Yeah.
No, I have it.
Okay.
I watched it.
I just think you should probably turn in your man card if you complain about ESPN Plus.
I don't know how anybody is operating in society in 2022 without the ESPN plan or the Disney plan. I know you can get that stuff in bundles or whatever.
Well, if you have kids, you definitely have the Disney plan. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the fact that it is on ESPN Plus is a little bit funny, but I guess it doesn't really affect.
It's a really good game to be on ESPN Plus. Although I watched college football final this morning. I don't even think they showed the OU Iowa State highlights.
Oh, did they not?
I don't think they did. If they did, I missed it. And I missed it twice because I sat there and just let it run through twice.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of really good games yesterday. Or I guess not good games. There was interesting matchups. And then obviously some surprises here and there. But We'll see. I mean,
you had Michigan State, you had Ohio State, Penn State, you had OSU getting blown out, which is surprising. You had TCU. I mean, boy, USC, they upset a lot of gamblers last night.
Yeah, we were listening to a little bit of that on the way home. It is interesting to me that, you look across the landscape of college football, and if you want to talk about just absolute dumpster fires, I mean, we thought for, 3 weeks basically that we were kind of living it, but there are some programs out there that are just absolute, just mockeries of the game of college
I watched
football.
every second of Ole Miss, Texas A&M last night.
That's one of them. That's one of them for sure. It sounded like Brian Harsin was going to be fired today, but I haven't ever seen anything on
Well, they
that.
just hired a new AD, so I think it's going to – they hired Mississippi State's AD, so he's going to have
official?
to – well, that was the reports that it was close to being a done deal. So
John Cohen or whatever
yes.
from Mississippi State?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a dumpster fire. A&M, I think it makes everybody around here feel pretty good that they're 3-5 right now.
I thought Wegman looked pretty good last night.
No, and I think he's going to be really good. I remember when Josh went to go see him, a couple years ago, and I think he had like 6 or 7 touchdowns that night. And it was like, yeah, this guy's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's that whole thing, and it's going to be a talking point for everyone about if you sell out to NIL, are you going to get uncoachable kids? And
yeah,
I don't, but that's the thing. The guys that are signing because NIL, they're all kids. Like the uncoachable ones are the ones that have been there. So I don't. It's it was interesting seeing Oklahoma State just get hammered, and that was without Adrian Martinez starting yesterday. Will Howard was the guy that tore them apart. And so, I did flip around to that Baylor game a little bit last night, and they just pretty much dominated Texas Tech and physically dominated them. And Baylor's down a bunch of guys too. So that will be a really interesting game. I mean, basically the parity is here at the Big 12. It's never been more even with more teams. To have you've had some parity, but you've always had Oklahoma just being a little bit above that parity line. Now, neither Texas nor Oklahoma are above that parity line. I mean, like TCU, they haven't lost, and you got to give them credit for that, but they also haven't really been blowing people out other than OU.
No, I mean, every game that they've played in has been basically fourth quarter down to the wire. I mean,
that West Virginia game was pretty close until, a couple of things happened late in that game.
Yeah, and they kept throwing it up on like they put up the scoreboard ribbon or whatever on the Jumbotron, and it seemed like it was a really competitive game. I still don't know if I necessarily trust TCU to go undefeated, but all of a sudden you look up and they're 8-0, and where's the loss going to come?
Also today, some really big news for the Big 12 is they reportedly get their new TV deal post OU Texas. Looks like to me, just doing simple math, I mean, it's about $31.6 million per team. And I don't know what the shares will be for UCF and Houston and BYU and Cincinnati, like if they'll be coming in on full shares or not. But you're going to go to 12 teams, and it was like $388 million a year, like $2.2 billion for 6 years. But the one thing it does, and look, I'm one of those guys, like what OU and Texas did to the Big 12, like, damn, they did them dirty. Like, it's still, like, it's not cool. Like, it's not. I feel bad for the Big 12. I feel bad for the teams in the Big 12. I'm glad that they did this and kind of, we're like, okay, Pac-12, your move now. Go get a contract now and keep your teams now because we just did this deal and we're going to survive. Now, they're not going to be making the $70 million they're saying the Big Ten and the SEC is going to be making. But it does keep them a major Power 5 conference moving forward.
It's been really kind of interesting. Like, I guess I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to all the Yormark stuff and like the bickering between the Big 12 and the Pac-12. I've seen it loosely on Twitter and stuff with people taking shots at each other, but all that stuff is kind of fascinating. Like, I guess how much people care about it, I don't know. I care, but I don't really care, if that makes sense.
I think it's because a lot of it's coming from the Pac-12 or not coming from the Pac-12 where they don't really care. I mean, Stanford kind of proved last weekend they don't really care about football.
Yeah, there's a lot of schools out there that don't care, and it sounds like the Pac-12 is going to be headed to the streaming route, and they're going to get more money because Amazon or somebody's going to pay them a bunch of money. But good luck getting those games. But then again, there's a bunch of people that have cut cable, so I completely get that side of it. It's just like there's so much unknown when you talk about television networks and contracts and all this kind of stuff about the future that I don't know. I find it fascinating to a certain extent, and then there's only so much that I can consume before I go, okay, I don't really care.
I think that's a mistake, the streaming route, because recruits aren't tuning in to Amazon Prime or Apple Plus to watch your games.
Yeah, but are they growing up in homes that's the only television watching option? I guess is that the way that you would have to look at it?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's.
I mean, I know a lot of my friends that are, they obviously have kids that are younger, but they've all cut cords, so I assume that's how those kids will watch TV. But then again, I don't know if kids watch a whole lot of TV.
Yeah.
If you're just watching your iPad the entire time.
Well, and maybe those for the really young kids, more will see it. I don't know, but I don't like the idea of taking your sport off of traditional cable. Yeah. Like the NFL's just dipping their toe in it. The Pac-12 would be putting their entire league on streaming.
Oh, the NFL thing, it's like it's just like icing on top of a cake. Right? It's just the added bonus to basically owning everything that is on television in the NFL world. So, I don't know. It is interesting just as far as how much money is involved in, really what is behind every decision that is involved in this sport. I mean, it comes down to what happens with the money and what the TV contracts want,
and
what the TV networks want.
What if ESPN and the SEC says, "Hey, we'll sell a weekly SEC game of the week to Amazon," and they go out and they steal that?
I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. You almost kind of expect it that way, don't you?
Or the Big Ten, yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is people want to say, well, does this mean now that they've got their next contract that Oklahoma and Texas can leave? I don't think it does, because Fox is still involved in this. They don't want to let go of that valuable inventory for the next 2 years. They want to be able to keep OU Texas on their channel at least one more time. It's OU and Texas are too valuable to Fox. Now, ESPN doesn't care because they're going to get them. If you see ESPN or SEC, it's all ESPN, except it was CBS, but now that's going to ESPN. So, Fox, they'll never have Oklahoma or Texas on again once they go to the SEC.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being defiant about it. I still think that 2024 will be the year. Somehow they get out a year early, but we'll see. I mean, nobody truly knows.
Yeah, I think it'll take this next year. I think if you leave it up to Mike Gundy, he'd make him stay till 2025 out of spite. Find some loophole in the contract that had to make. But I think the emotions after another year will fade. And it'll be more about moving on. Okay, we got the new TV contract. We got these new teams in the league. I would hope that it would get to the point where the Big 12 would just kind of be just let him go.
Yeah. And eventually, I guess, when it comes down to money, that it's easy for me to sit here and say this, but at some point you would think that everybody would just want to wipe their hands clean and get this thing over with. It's not necessarily it's not like a nasty divorce by any means, but it's also uncomfortable, I guess, is probably the best way to say it. I think everybody's just ready to move on.
I think not everybody is, but they will be here soon. I mean, it's just like the Lincoln Riley thing. At some point, you just have to. You can take your little shots, but you stop being consumed by it.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't sold a Rush 3 drop 8 shirt in a while.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. So it's almost unhealthy just to keep harping on it, over and over and over and over again.
But that's going to be the next big thing. Look, OU and Texas, they're in no rush to get to the SEC right now. I mean, and that's the great thing about the last 2 games for Oklahoma is some of the noise from, negative recruiters can kind of slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And if nothing else, just look at some of the schools within the SEC right now that have, basically turned it around in 1 year. And, namely, it could be the number 1 team in the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday night in Tennessee. Like they were abysmal, not abysmal, but they had problems a year ago. They were abysmal 2 years ago before Josh got there. And all of a sudden they're one of the best teams in the country. Like this thing, it can be turned around quickly. You just got to continue to, as cliche as it sounds, put in the work and just get it done. Continue getting better.
And, I think, we talked about, like, did Robert Spears-Jones or Jennings get any snaps Saturday?
Yeah, he was out there. It was kind of late, but he was out there at times.
Okay. So the whole youth movement and getting those guys in, I think that's partially, though, because the defense played so well. Like, if they had struggled, then you probably would have seen him a little bit earlier. But, that's going to be the other thing the rest of the season, seeing that youth movement, seeing Jaron Canick, seeing Robert Spears-Jennings, when Billy Bowman gets back to full speed, how much do you continue to see Key Lawrence? But, developing those guys, I mean, that becomes the next phase of this thing if you feel like you're getting your defense figured out.
Do you feel better than maybe a week ago that OU can win their last 4 games?
Yeah, sure.
Or do you think that they can? I guess that's where we should start.
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, Baylor, Tech, West Virginia, they can win all of those. Bedlam's going to be nuts, but it's in Norman, and depending on what kind of health everybody gets. I mean, Spencer Sanders did leave that game hurt again.
Yeah, he looked
like they had to bring in Gunnar Gundy. That
was kind of uncomfortable watching him having to labor around. I mean, you talk about a guy, he's earned – he might not be the best quarterback in the Big 12 or anything like that, but Spencer Sanders, he put his nutsack out on the line. I mean, these last couple of weeks, he's basically been playing in a banged-up body. So, that's kind of an interesting situation. They're like a 3-point favorite going to Lawrence this weekend. OSU is like the entire Big 12. It's like you said, the parity within the league right now. Anybody can beat anybody. It's kind of fun.
Well, and we know how that works though. You start losing starters, you start, having attrition, you can get bad really fast.
Sure.
I mean, just like with Dillon Gabriel. I mean,
no doubt.
You lose a Spencer Sanders and you have unproven guys behind him, you can become the worst team. You can literally become the worst team in the league overnight.
I guess, is Kansas State just kind of shoving that right back in our face, as beat up as they are, and they just continue winning, although they did get beat in Fort Worth. But I don't know. Will Howard was incredible yesterday.
Yeah, he was really good. But, he came in and played well against TCU as well. So,
no, he did.
Think about it. They lost to TCU playing Will Howard the entire game outside of the first series. Because Adrian Martinez just played the first series and then never played again.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that they're going to be even better when Adrian Martinez comes back. I think Will Howard, with some of the weapons they have on offense, as long as they're controlling the line of scrimmage like they did. And that's the other thing, like OSU, like they still had Brock Martin. They had Trace Ford. They had Colin Oliver. Like they had the guys up front, and they just beat them. K-State, we've seen them play. Their offensive line is good.
Yeah.
Really good.
No, they are good. I think that is one of the things that, just talking to a couple of my Oklahoma State buddies about it, it's just like once you get past that defensive line of Brock Martin and Colin Oliver, and who was the third guy that
Trace Ford is just kind of coming back still.
Yeah. That's kind of it. They don't have a whole lot of depth on the defensive line. So if you can, if they're going to be playing as many plays as those guys have seen here over the last, 3-4 weeks, like in this stretch that they've been in, it makes that shit tough. They're a tired, beat up group. that I don't think has a whole lot of depth, and I think it's probably showing. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. What's Jalen Daniels' situation going into this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, separated shoulder. He's what? That was right before the OU game, so
yeah,
it's probably not till the final 2 games of the season until he'd be ready if at all.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Oklahoma can continue playing good defense. David Owegbu was another guy that Josh highlighted on Saturday in the report card that he thought had a really good day. Really, I mean, as much as we talked about on the U40 last week, as disappointing as the linebacker core had been, they must have listened to it because they had a pretty good day.
They look like they're figuring it out a little bit.
Stutzman, and DaShaun White.
Well, DaShaun White's just been fantastic. I mean, he is. I'm trying to think. I mean, like, for all that we knew Kenneth Murray was like a legit NFL prospect, I think we all watched him and were like, we should see more. Like, if he really is this number one first round pick, like, I would think it'd be a little better. Like, DaShaun White, to me, is like, wow. Like, that's what a linebacker looks like to me. And, I mean, flying in, forcing fumbles, interceptions, big plays behind the line of scrimmage. Like, he's just getting it, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, he played well yesterday.
Now it's up to Stutzman and Owegbu to start getting it. And, I mean, it's what are we, 8 games in now? So, brand new defense. Maybe we're seeing a turnaround. Maybe they're figuring it out. But that's the thing. It's like you have to keep playing another and not do a Texas all over again.
Yeah, and that's the most amazing thing is about all of it is that it just is so week to week. Like they can go out and just look completely lost, and then they can look somewhat like a competent product. And yesterday we got a competent product. It's just maybe that's just college football in a nutshell. But that's where this thing is at right now. You just hope that it continues here over the course of the next 4 weeks, and they do that, they'll be able to give themselves a chance if they can get the football moving with Dillon Gabriel. So he's been good since coming back from the concussion. He hasn't been great, I guess, is probably the way to summarize that. But they got to get better play from the wide receivers, particularly Marvin Mims. He needs to have a bounce-back day against Baylor.
I mean, I can't imagine him having a worse day. I mean,
it was just weird. It was like he was, I don't know, it's just like he was completely detached from everything yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't seem to be present. It really was weird. By the way, I never want to be that guy that tells fans how to be fans. But I'm going to deal with this Monday morning, and I'm really not looking forward to it. Let's hold off on figuring out how OU gets to the Big 12 championship game just yet.
Well, I mean, if we want to have that honest conversation,
no,
I think yesterday, but yesterday, truly, the worst thing that happened was the way that Kansas State played.
Yes.
I think if you wanted a true window, if you really wanted a true...
Because they've already beaten you.
Right. And you still have to play Oklahoma State, so that would have meant that, you would have obviously needed to win Bedlam and then have Iowa State or West Virginia beat
OSU.
Oklahoma State. Yeah. But now, I mean, you're talking about... And
Kansas State's played Oklahoma State, TCU, and Oklahoma, so
yeah, they're gonna have to drop a couple games that would be absolute surprises. But then again, in this conference, who knows what's going to happen? The way that this conference works, it seems like whoever Kansas State plays this weekend, who they play, Texas, they'll probably end up getting beat. So I don't know.
Texas and Oklahoma the rest of the way is going to be interesting because they're both two very talented teams who are not playing well. Which one's getting to the finish line with the better record?
Yeah, Texas is playing up in Manhattan, coming off of a bye next week.
Ooh.
Texas and Kansas with the byes this week, so OSU gets. I
think Bijan Robinson will have a tough time against Kansas State.
Yeah, they played really well yesterday. I don't know. I have no idea what to think of this thing right now, just overall top to bottom, but it should be pretty fun. It's going to be a competitive game.
Let's face it, though. If you win out and you're Oklahoma, that's That's big time. I mean, that solves a lot of problems.
I mean, you talk
regardless if you go to the Big 12 championship or not.
No, it's 100%. And it's a little bit weird that you say this. I guess, technically it would be a lie, but I think that you would say that this has been 100% a success if you could finish off a 9-3. Like, that would be from where this thing was. I mean, my God.
You know what thought I had yesterday more than anything? Not like the question to me right now is not, could OU make it to the Big 12 championship somehow? The question is, after watching Oregon and the way that Bo Nix is playing, watching TCU, if they get into the CFP discussion, even if they don't, I guess, we could be headed toward an Oklahoma USC Valero Alamo Bowl.
Yeah, I guess would they need to get beat again?
Well, that's their second selection. They would have to have a team in the CFP, and then the second team would have to go to the Rose Bowl. But there's a Rose Bowl. Are they in the CFP this year? Rotation.
I mean, my God, fingers crossed. That'd be. It would be a.
I would have to go just to go to all the press conferences.
It'd be a banner week.
I would just go and cover USC.
That'd be pretty
funny. And you and Bob could cover OU.
That'd be pretty funny. I mean, it would be. I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up. I want that to happen, obviously.
The thing is, those players really don't know us because we never talk to them other than on Zooms.
Yeah, I will say, I don't like. Is that the thing that Oklahoma would want? Just as far as like, I don't know if you want to play Caleb Williams.
That's not ideal. No.
I mean, offensively, they're still pretty damn good. We listened to a little bit of that game yesterday on the way back, and Arizona was moving the ball at will at times.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have Mario Williams or Jordan Addison. And Caleb Williams still threw for 5 touchdowns and 400 yards.
Yeah, no shit. He's a sicko, but the dude can coach. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, no. Is it trick-or-treat day today?
I think it's tomorrow. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what that schedule is.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just turning my lights off tonight. That's what I know.
I think it's tomorrow. I think it's Monday.
Be living in darkness.
Idea, we'll be at practice, so I guess I don't. Nobody's gonna be coming over to the COVID compound. You can't get into this building. It's a fortress.
All right. Well, next week, 2:00, we'll be back with another Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. This time, we apologize for doing it on a Sunday, but I wanted the guy. I told Eddie this last night. Like, we're not having you do a podcast while you're in a car driving through that part of the country, because for those of you that do know, I have hit a deer coming back from Ames in my lifetime, and it freaks me out driving at night, coming back from Ames to Kansas City every freaking time. So did you see any on the side of the road or anything?
Yeah, we did, actually.
Oh, shit.
Couple times.
No.
There was actually quite a bit of traffic out last night, so it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
It was actually kind of strange how much traffic was out, but it was and it's not that bad of a drive. I mean, get through Kansas City.
No, I
and
offered
then,
to fly you guys,
south.
and you're like, no, we just want to drive.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So we will not be making the drive to Morgantown. I think we'll be flying out there.
No, flights are already booked for that one.
Yeah. So it was overall a pretty good trip. If that's the last time that we ever go up to Ames, Iowa, God love him.
I mean, let's be honest.
I would not miss it.
Look, Bedlam is its own thing, but next week will be OU's biggest test to have they gotten over the hump and really improved.
Yeah.
I really think it's I'm not saying it's the toughest game to have because OSU beat them in Waco, and I think Baylor they're right there with everybody. They're a good team. They can beat almost anybody any week, but they're not a juggernaut by any means.
Sure.
They've got some issues on their offensive line and defensive lines. So, and their defense is not what it has been. They just lost so many guys to the draft.
Yeah, they're beat up. There's no doubt about that.
So we will be back for that again next week. Thanks to Eskridge Lexus for being the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com and the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. Go check them out at EskridgeLexus.com and get yourself in line. Those cars are continuing to come in. If you're looking for something in L certified, those are great cars as well. So Ed and the guys will take care of you. Just go check them out at EskridgeLexus.com. So thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back again middle of the week for the unofficial 40. But until then, we're signing off right here from the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast on Soonerscoop.com.